So let's just jump right in, get things started here. So today we're going to be discussing the Electrolux front load washer tips. So one of the things about the Electrolux front load washer, I really like the front load washer with Electrolux. I personally had one. I like the fact that it has many of the great features. It's a stackable front load. Both the washer and the dryer have a steam feature. The dryer is actually a mist feature, but it makes it so that I'll give you a perfect example. I washed a load of clothes last night. I didn't get them out of the dryer in time, and lo and behold, it wrinkled a bunch of my work pants and my work shirts. So I had to take them and go ahead and put them in again with using that load, and got a little sprints in there, and it did a world of good for it. So let's talk about our agenda here. Okay, we're going to talk about common issues, checkpoints for diagnosis, error codes, and wiring schematics. We're probably not going to get it to the wiring schematic portion of the program. I'm expecting that this program is going to be a little long. Okay, so one of the things that you want to make sure that you do as a technician, what are the three things that you need to do to eliminate issues with a service call? They're very simple. Some of these are not always the easiest thing to do, because sometimes as we all know, the customers can be a little irate, or because their product is broken, they can be a little belligerent if you're not careful. I always used to tell my technicians whenever I ran a shop, always, if you're having problems and you need to take a break, please take a break. Walk away from the situation. Okay. Tell the customer, I've got to go to the truck and get something. I'll be right back. Take a breather. Take a breather. Don't let your circumstances influence your judgment. Okay. But let's take a look at this. Okay. So what are the three things that I really need to do whenever I am getting ready to walk into a customer's house? Okay. I'm going to tell you that my number one thing is, okay, whenever I enter that customer's home, I want to do it with safety in mind. Okay. Number one, we all know that customers have dogs, cats, kids. Make sure that I'm closing the door. Make sure that whenever I walk into the house, I'm being very mindful of the customer's property. There's nothing worse than getting a phone call as a manager and the customer says, your guy destroyed my door frame. How did you do that? And you know, then you have to talk to the technician and go, hey, what happened? So here's one of the things that I tell my technicians. You know what? Before I enter the house, I take a picture of the door casing. Okay. That way I've got some proof. Then I ring the bell. When the customer answers the door, I'm mindful of what is happening. If I'm going to be in a kitchen, I make sure that I look around me, and if I see anything that is not normal, a scratch, a mark on the floor, a scrape, I point it out to the customer and just tell the customer, hey, I just wanted to let you know this is what I see, because in the end, you're going to get blamed for it. I had a customer try to blame one of my technicians for damaging a tile And I was like, there's no way that he did that. That came from it was a range problem. Somebody had dropped something on the tile. The only way that I could prove that is the technician actually took a picture of it before he even started. He noted it on his ticket. When the customer came to me and said, "Hey, your guy broke my tile floor. It's going to cost you X number of dollars." And I said, "Whoa, hang on. Let me get with the technician. I'll get back with you." The technician actually, sent me the photo, sent me a notation on his ticket. I called the customer back and I said, "Well, Miss Jones, here's the problem. I have the technician that was at your house. He noted it on his service order that was already done, and he took a picture of it before he ever moved the unit. So I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do for you on that. You need to talk to whoever it was that you think did it, because my technician didn't do it." So always enter the house with both your safety, customer safety, pet safety in mind. Okay, always have floor protection. Okay, if I'm going to be working around something that is going to require that has water involved with it, whether it is a refrigerator, a washing machine, anything that has water involved, I'm going to take some towels. If I have a set of tools, I am going to have a mat for my tools, so that I don't damage the customer's floor. Or please don't ever set anything on a countertop. That will, as a technician, that will kill you every dime. They'll say that you scratched their tile on the countertop, and we all know that that's not cheap. Okay, so bring your floor protection, bring your towels, bring anything that you might need that you think is going to help you in getting everything done. Now, granted, this is the one-off. This is not every customer, but just make sure that you're actually that you're going into the house with safety in mind. Okay. So one of the other things as a technician, if I'm going to be working on something, I like to have gloves. If I am going to, later on, we're going to talk about our replacing the boot in a washer. I want a set of gloves because you can really cut yourself really, really easily. I was actually with a technician, and he slipped and cut his finger on one of the pieces that we all call Schick razor blade company, and it's every single manufacturers have sharp edges. You have to be sure. So I always suggest have a set of gloves with you. Okay. Make sure that I've got the proper tools that I'm going to need. If I'm going to need to, like in this, where we're going to go later on, if I'm going to go and I'm going to need a socket with some wrenches, I want to make sure that I have those in my tool bag. Okay. I want to make sure that I have floor protection. Okay. In this one, the perfect example is for the water on the floor. Okay. I used to carry, whenever I was a technician, I carried a 5-gallon bucket whenever I thought that I was going to have to look at something that I was going to have experience water. I had a 5-gallon bucket. In that 5-gallon bucket, I had plenty of towels that were folded. It also gave me another area that I could use larger items and put them in that 5-gallon bucket. And then I made sure that I didn't damage anything in the customer's house. Please, whenever you're going into a customer's house, I can't stress this enough. Make sure that you are taking care of the customer's property. Okay. The last thing, always check before you leave. you would be surprised how many times I had a specialty tool that I only had like, if I had 26 trucks. With my 26 trucks, I had 8 um, spanner wrenches because we furnished it everything. Okay. I had 8 spanner wrenches. I had, little bits. So I wanted to know where my spanner wrenches were. I can't tell you the number of times that I went to a technician and go, "Hey, Bill, listen, man, where's the spanner wrench?" "Oh man, I left that at a customer's house." Well, that doesn't help me. That you got to go back either A and get it back from the customer, or you're going to have to buy one. I hate to tell you that, but that's the way it is. Okay. So make sure that you check before you leave that you didn't leave anything behind. Okay. The last thing that you're going to do is you're going to have the customer sign and date the paperwork, and then you're going to sign and date the paperwork. Okay. That's just a safety for you and the customer, saying that you have completed their work and they are satisfied at that time. So make sure that you have the paperwork signed. That also will drive a person crazy in an office that you did not have the customer sign the paperwork. Okay, so let's look at some of the check things that I want to check off my list when I walk in to a washing machine to check. Okay, check the operation of the door switch. Okay, always make sure that you're checking the door switch, because we all know that if the door switch is bad, nothing works. I mean, the light, it comes on, but it won't start. Okay, that's a safety feature. Please, if you walk in and somebody has jumped out the lid switch, don't walk away. Take a picture and walk away. Tell the customer, "I'm sorry, the last person that did this, they have voided your warranty if they're under warranty. If somebody has jumped the lid switch, show the customer, I don't know who worked on it. For me to fix this is going to cost you more money than if it were normal." Okay, so always point things out to the customer, and if you see them, point them out whenever you're there. Okay. One of the other things that used to drive me crazy is, and I don't know if they're even still in business. You have to understand, I came up in the 70s repairing appliances. 70s, 80s, early 90s, I was repairing appliances. Okay. Drove me crazy whenever people put cheap replacement parts in. Okay. I'm not going to mention any names. We all know that they're out there. If you see it, I'm always skeptical about that, because one of the things is a controller can be totally out of sync and may not work properly. That could be part of your problem. You may end up having to replace it. Customer may tell you, "Hey, well, I just had that replaced 5 weeks ago." Well, I'm sorry, it failed, and it's a non-OEM part. So I'm going to have to replace it, and I don't use non-OEM parts. So, okay, make sure that it's an authentic replacement part. Okay, check all your wires. This is quick checks. Okay, check all your wires, ensure they're not too loose. I'm talking about the plugs, the Molenex plugs. You'll be surprised how many times, especially with like a refrigerator, I have walked in and the Molenex plugs, I've actually had to zip tie it together so that I could make the contact so that it worked properly. Okay, check all the screws and nuts and see if they're fastened correctly. You get a lot of noise complaints. That can be your noise complaints right there. Is the screws and nuts are not fastened properly. Okay, check whether any foreign material is in it. Okay, soil is a little much, but we all know what we're talking about. In this, a foreign material can be a bra underwire. It can be a safety pin. It can be a hairpin. It can be a small little pair of socks, a pair of toddler socks, a pair. I got news for you. I found a pair of my socks that got washed over the tub in my old washing machine. That can happen. So just make sure that you check around and make sure that you don't have, and that can be part of your problem whenever we're actually in the house and are actually working on before we start working on it. Look at what the customer told you. Is it slow to drain? Is it doesn't drain properly? What else could be that could be your issue here? You just think a little ahead and try to anticipate things. Okay. Now the other thing is, please make sure there's no water that's coming from the hose connector. I ran an install crew for about 3 years, and that install crew, I had one guy that got in a real big hurry because we paid per stop, not by, that's the way that we paid, was per stop. So he was all the time not tightening up the hose clamps on the back of the washing machine. Okay. That ended up coming back and biting us, and it dripped on the floor, so we had a problem. Okay. So just make sure that you're checking all the water connections. Okay. Look for damage to the power cable or the outlet. Okay. You'll be surprised how many loose connections are. One of the my parents have an outlet that I just had to replace because my brother had used a off-brand receptacle, and it didn't hold up, and I ended up having to replace the outlet. So check the power cable, see if it's got if it has burn marks on it, check the outlet, see if it has any burn marks on it. We've all done that. That could be part of the problem. You could be not getting your 110 volts. Okay. The other thing, last thing, check for proper installation. Okay. Number one, we're talking about we're talking about a washing machine. This is anything. Make sure that it's leveled. Make sure that you have the proper drain and water hookups. Make sure that the drain on a washing machine has the zip tie on it so that it doesn't blow out. Make sure that, like in a dishwasher, make sure that you have a high loop. Make sure that the outlet is close to the unit. I actually had somebody that was trying to run a washing machine out the back door, sitting on the porch on an extension cord. Well, that's not going to work after a while. You have too much fluctuation in the voltage. Okay, so just check all those things in before you get totally started, is all I'm saying. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about we're talking about a front load washing machine. Okay. When placing the unit in the diagnostic mode on this Electrolux washer, it is imperative that it starts in the normal cycle. It's going to screw things up if you don't put it if it's not on the normal cycle. So just look whenever whenever you power the unit on, the light for normal will come on. If it's not, change it, and then you can excuse me, change it so that it now is on the normal cycle, and then you proceed. Okay. So to start, turn the unit on, make sure it's in the normal cycle again. Okay. Then start the cycle. Then quickly turn the power back off. Okay. Once I turn the power back off, I'm going to power the unit back on. Okay. I'm going to hold the temperature and the select buttons. This will place the unit in test mode. Okay. One of the ways that you're going to know that it's going to that you have completed it and it has now gone into the test mode is that what the LEDs will light. Okay. On the panel itself, like the normal, the light, all of those little cycle lights will come on, okay, or flash on and go through. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the knob on the unit clockwise to advance so that I can get through each test. Okay. There are 13 tests that I can do. The last test is 13, and that's where your error codes are located. Okay. So once I have advanced it around and I have gotten to the error codes, okay, F10 indicates the machine is not, these are your common error codes that we see, okay? Let's see, the machine's not filling with water, and it may be that it is the valve on the back is not working. It could be something as simple as whenever you go and take the hose off the back, you're going to look at the fill valve. Inside the fill valve is a little screen. You're going to take and look at that screen and see if it has all kinds of junk in it. A lot of times, if the customer has had if they're in a new neighborhood, it's really bad about putting sand in the water in the system in it. So that screen is made so that it doesn't go through. I have actually had to take the screen out, take it and clean it out. You can clean it one of two ways. You can do it by water, or I used to keep a can of air in my toolbox, and that way I could blow it out. So I'm going to either blow it out with water or blow it out with air. Okay. I used to know a guy that carried a little mini compressor around in his truck, and that's the way that he did it. Brand new subdivisions are world's worst for you not to be able to get water in because of all the stuff that they have in the water, where they're going and tapping into the line and piecing the lines together, going to houses and everything. So just be aware of that. Be aware of your surroundings. If I'm in a neighborhood that's brand new, and I've got a complaint that I'm not getting water, that's what I'm going to be looking for, is stuff like that. Okay. Okay. Check the water hoses, make sure that they're properly connected and not kinked. That's another problem. Some of the installed people have the hoses kinked up and you can't get them out. You have to unkink them. Okay. And if you go through and you get all of that information, you start it, and it's still, you get this error code, you may have to replace that inlet valve. Okay. F11. This is an error code that the machine is not draining properly. Okay. So to fix this issue, check the drain hose, make sure it's properly connected and not clogged. And if the problems persist, you may need to replace the drain pump. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the things that can cause it not to drain. Okay. Number one, a sock in the pump. My impeller I actually was on a call with a technician. The technician, it was not draining. Whenever we cycled it through the test and went into the drain cycle, you could hear what the problem was. You could hear a bang, 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 click, 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 click. What had happened was the impeller, an underwire for a bra got hung up into that impeller and actually sheared the impeller off, and the impeller was actually laying in the pump itself. So we had to replace the pump. Or if you have if you're good at it, most of these you can actually remove the screws that surround the drain pump. You can take that impeller off, and you can put a new impeller on if you have one. If you don't, and you've only got the drain pump, put the drain pump on. Okay. If that's the case, then just make sure that you're showing the customer whenever you get there, Ms. Jones, here was your problem. Here's what it took to fix it. Here's I would suggest that whenever you put these in the washing machine, that you put them in I don't think anybody even uses them anymore, but whenever I was younger, they used to make a little bag that you put everything in that the water could get through. People would put baby socks, baby stuff that would wash over. So you could put anything in there. You could put baby socks. You could put regular socks, little short socks. You could put underwear, small underwear in there. You can put but you have you could show the customer that on your on your phone on Amazon, because they still have them on Amazon. Okay. If I get an F20, it's an error code that tells me there's a issue with the washing machine's water circulation. Okay. You have to check the water pump, the hoses for any blockages, restrictions, the problems that persist. You may need to replace the water pump. Okay. So one of the things that with new construction, a lot of the time you will get a complaint or a call for a customer, and if it's brand new, you go in, you put the drain hose in, they go to wash it, they turn the washer on. Whenever it goes to drain, it backs up from the drain and dumps out on the floor, because there's something holding that back. There's usually insulation, could be something as simple as a piece of sheetrock got put in there. This is all for like brand new apartments or world's worst for it. But new construction, if you're brand new with construction, look for all of that before you start going to the unit and thinking it's the unit. Okay. So if I have this circulation error, okay, or if I have an error code that tells me that my unit's not draining properly, I may never see that. But one of the things that I can do is I can go through and fill it up with water, activate the drain cycle. Whenever it starts to drain, I can tell. I can hear it if I listen, I can hear it backing up into the into the spout itself. You can actually hear it fill up, and you'll know for a fact that, hey, I have an external problem. We need to get either the maintenance guy, or if I am in a brand new home, I need to get the contractor out here, because they're going to have to come out and have that fixed. And I don't know what they're going to do. It's however they're going to do it. I had one that they literally had to cut the wall out because it was so far in it, and replace everything in the wall, then retape it and put everything in sheetrock it. Okay, so the next thing that we've got here is an E21. The error code indicates the machine is not spinning properly. Okay, so once again, check the door lock, make sure that it's functioning properly. You may have to replace the door lock or the control board. Could be something, could be a stator. You're going to have to listen. Whenever you're listening, whenever it goes into a spin, you're going to see if it actually is ramping up to speed. All of these washers spin. All these Electrolux washers spin at about 1,200 RPMs. You can hear it ramp up. If something happens and it doesn't ramp up properly, Open the door. See if there's clothes in it. If there's clothes in it, see if they're still wet. See if it's not draining properly. You got to go back through all of your checks before you say that, oh, I need to go to the stator. Just make sure that you're diagnosing it properly. Okay. So another problem with leaking, and it's not just in the Electrolux, every single manufacturer out there, and I have worked for a lot of the manufacturers. I have worked for Electrolux. I have worked for Hire America. I have worked for Samsung. We literally, every front load washer has a particular issue with the boot in the front. Okay, one of the problems is, and I'll be honest with you, I am not the greatest guy at cleaning out my pockets. My ex-girlfriend used to drive me crazy because she would come home and go, look at this. This is what I found in your pockets. Well, thank God she did that, because it would have gotten down into the pump. I've seen where screws have gotten into an outer tub and just ruined the outer tub. So just make sure that if the customer, you go through and you open the door, check the boot, see if the boot has, and be careful about running your hands around. I have found like needles and sewing needles and all kinds of things around that inside. So make sure that you are being careful with that and protecting your hands, because there's nothing that hurts worse than sticking a needle in the end of your finger as you're running it around. Same thing with a screw. Certain screws are really sharp. Well, that may be your problem. And if that's your problem, guess what? You may have to replace the front boot. Okay. Another problem is if they don't clean this front boot about once every 6 months, you are going to need to clean it for them and charge them for it, because it will stink to high heaven. Okay. So very, very rarely do you actually have a problem with the boot leaking. Okay. Unless there has been a foreign obstacle that has been admitted to the system. And at that point, all bets are off. Okay. So there are several potential causes of the leaky washer, including a loose hose connection, a clogged or damaged drain hose, a faulty water inlet valve, a worn or damaged door seal, or a faulty pump. Okay. To fix a leaky washer, you need to identify the source of the leak and take the appropriate steps to fix it. We all got to figure that out. So I'm going to have to, one of the things that I can do is, if this unit is not stacked, then I'm okay. Okay. I can move it around. That means I probably have enough room to move it around. But let's talk about stacked units. So I walk into the house. If my call taker has done the proper job, they have actually asked the customer, hey, is this unit stacked, or is this unit side by side where the technician can get at it? Okay. 9 times out of 10, if it's stacked, you're going to need one of two things. Okay. You're going to need either an extra hand, so you're going to have to charge the customer for that. You're not the one that put it in the closet, or you're going to have an air slit. Now, I have talked to the regional service manager at Electrolux, and Electrolux is in the process of buying every single person that they have as a technician, an Electrolux technician branded. they're in the process of buying them an air sled, because with an air sled I can get only one person on the unit. I don't have to have two people, so it eliminates me having to have dual technicians in there. We never had a technician that just did was kind of the guy that was the handy guy that just helped for the lifting and moving of things. We always had to have another technician, and that's cost preventive. So you have to charge for that. Okay. But one of the things that the reason that I have brought up so much of this is replacing this boot seal. If this is the first time you have ever replaced a boot seal, you're going to have a whole lot of fun. Just plan on an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to even get this to work. We're going to outline some of the ways that you can replace this boot seal. This is the one that I'm telling you that's going to take the longest for us to go through and show how to replace this boot seal, because this boot seal in anybody's washer, I don't care if it's GE, I don't care if it is a Electrolux, if it's a Samsung, a Whirlpool, a Maytag, any of them, they are a nightmare to get done. That is going to be your fastest, your longest problem. Just like with a refrigerator, it's a compressor. Okay. This is the longest thing. We used to have races whenever I was doing appliances on certain things. And, this is one that we used to have a race on to see who could get it fixed, who could be king of the hill is what we used to call it. Okay. So check the door seal and gasket. One common cause of a leaking Electrolux washer is a damaged door seal and gasket. The door seal is the rubber seal around the edge of the outside. It helps prevent the water from leaking out. If the door seal is damaged, it may be letting water escape through the washer, and this can be the problem. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to shut off the water supply, and I'm going to unplug the unit from the outlet. Okay. I'm going to carefully open the door and inspect the door seal for any visible damage, cracks, tears, foreign objects. If the seal is damaged, you're going to have to replace it. Okay. Use the following instructions for replacing the door seal. Okay. This is about a 30-step process. By the time that you take it apart and you put it all back together. Okay. This is what I was telling you takes you the longest amount of time. Okay. The front seal replacement. Okay. The first thing, like I said, I'm going to unplug the unit. I'm going to turn the water off. And then I'm going to have someone either help me move the appliance away from the wall, or I'm going to use an air sled to get it away from the wall. This machine is heavy. The big joke was one of the guys at the class that I went to had the the concrete boot on the bottom slip out of his hands and drop into his toe, and he thought that he had broken his toe. He was not a happy camper, and he hurt bad. He ended up leaving the class. Okay, so be careful. Number 2, wear gloves. Okay. On this washing machine, there still are a lot of sharp edges. The only way you're going to prevent any damage to your hands is to wear gloves. As you can well tell by my hands, I was not one that followed this rule. My hands have been cut all kinds of places, all to pieces. And it's my own fault. Like my grandfather said, you can't fix stupid. So always use protection whenever you're working on an appliance. Okay. Number two, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the 2 screws securing the top panel. Okay. If you look at that, I show 2 spots where those 2 screws are. Okay. Once I remove those 2 screws from that top panel, I'm going to pull that panel, lift up on the back and pull it towards me, just like that is done right there. Okay. Now, once again, notice that his hand is cupped underneath to pull on that. If something happens and it sticks, if I don't have gloves on like he doesn't, I am cursed with the ability that I may have just cut myself. And the last thing you want to do is cut yourself in a customer's home and then them freak out because, bloodborne pathogens. Okay. Make sure that you protect yourself and the customer's property and the customer's home. Okay. So once I do that, I'm going to open the door. Okay. I'm going to use a set of needle nose pliers to extend the spring to remove the spring from the boot seal. Okay. This is all with the door open. If you look on the picture on the right, you can tell that the door is open, that they have pinched that and they're removing that seal. Okay. Once I do that, I'm going to peel that seal out. I pull out and down, and I can just roll it around the corners. Okay. Once I get that all the way out, I'm going to take that spring and I'm going to put it somewhere very, very close that I can find. Okay. I'm going to lift the front. I'm going to lift and support the front of the washer. Okay. So I have to push back on the washer. I used to have just a block like this guy has right here. I have seen technicians that had gone to Harbor Freight and bought one of those wheel chocks, and you can use that wheel chock to hold the front of the washer up. They're all the rubber ones. Okay. That's the easiest way that I always did was the board. I actually had a 4x4 that I used, not these 2 1-bys. Okay. Once I do that, I'm going to take out the 4 screws securing the top of the panel. Okay. So I'm looking underneath the washer, right there on the center picture, and that's where I'll be able to see these 4 screws on the top panel. Okay. Let's take just a second and let's talk about something. Okay. One of the things that I have always done is I have always kept a metal container that was magnetized. Okay. If you do that, that's fine, but you have to make sure that you put the right screws in the right holes. Okay. Many of these screws are threaded into plastic. Okay. We're going to get to it and I'll show you where it is. If you put the wrong screw in that hole, you've just ruined you've just ruined it. Okay. I have seen guys that actually put a little super glue in it to hold them because they screwed it up. But that makes the next person that comes out, that makes him have problems because he can't get the screw out. Okay. I used to take my screws and I used to lay them out. Okay. The 2 screws on the back, I would put in one location. Then I would take that boot seal, and I would, whenever I took that spring off the boot seal, I would take and put that boot seal next to that. After I take the boot seal off, I would then lift it up. I would take the 4 screws out of the bottom panel. It's not top, it's the bottom panel. Okay. I would take those 4 screws out. I would take those screws and put them in that spring so that I knew that that's where those screws went to. Okay. Okay. After I do that, I'm going to pull out the dispenser drawer. I'm going to press down on the tab that is shown on the right side, and that enables you to remove that drawer. Every front load washer has a tab. There are some tabs that Electrolux has experienced that they have to go and readjust the drawer because it actually makes it you can pull the drawer out and it'll just pull right straight out. Okay, there's an update for that. Make sure that you check your updates before you go into anybody's house. Make sure that if there's an update that I know about it. If it's a technician, I am responsible to know what the manufacturer has discovered with issues. Okay. Right. So after I do that, I'm going to take the thread. I'm going to unthread the screws out of the dispenser. Okay. Notice that is plastic. This is where I was telling you that you have got to make sure that when you put these screws out, that I'm putting the right screws in the right holes whenever I get ready to reassemble it. There's nothing worse as a technician if you got 50 screws and then you go and you finish them and you're either missing a screw or you got 3 extras. And that doesn't mean you just take and put them in your toolbox and go, oh well, the next guy will find it. That's not acceptable. You need to make sure that you are putting the right screws in the right holes and that you get every screw in that needs to be put back in, because that can lead to an issue with noise. Okay. So if you look, I circled where the tooth screws go. Okay. So you'll take both of those screws out of that dispenser housing. Okay. Then I'm going to remove the 3 screws on the top panel. Okay. I'm going to lift up the top panel. See, there's 3 screws right there. I'm going to lift up the top panel and I'm going to detach it. So whenever I pull out on that, I'm going to have to lift up on it. Once again, this is a chance that you can actually cut yourself. Okay. Just once again, one thing I do is I stress safety. Okay. We just want to make sure that we're doing the safest thing for you. Okay. Now, there are 2 connectors that are just behind that top panel. I mean, that front panel. Okay. There's one that is the switch, the door switch. Okay. That is the one that's on the bottom left. The next one, you have to, once you remove that switch, that connector, that Molenex connector, you can move the door over. You can actually see that there's a plug that goes into the back of the control panel, and you need to remove that. Be very careful. That is something that you have to literally replace the whole wiring harness, because they don't make it just one little piece. Okay. One of the guys told me that he accidentally broke that and actually had to replace the whole wiring harness for it. So just make sure that you're careful. Okay. The next thing. Okay. This is the block that the guy dropped on his foot. Whenever he lifted up and moved, it literally dropped on his toe and broke a toe, I think. We never really saw him. He didn't come back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this is where I needed my socket wrench. Okay. I'm going to take a 7/16 socket. I'm going to remove the 4 bolts that I have outlined right there that are in the counterbalance. Okay. I'm going to lift up and pull that weight out. I'm going to set it on the floor carefully. I'm going to make sure that I have something that is between the floor and this weight. It will scratch a floor. Okay. So make sure that you're protecting the customer's floor and yourself. Okay. Set the weight aside. It is very heavy. It's not that heavy. It's about 20, I think it's 22 pounds. That's what it is. Then I'm going to remove the light assembly. Okay. Once I remove that light assembly, I'm going to cut the zip ties from around the circulation hose and the dispenser hose. I've circled those two. The light assembly is right there in between. I have a different picture whenever I go to reassembly or reassemble it that has a good picture of the light. Okay. So you're being very careful whenever I'm removing my light assembly. I'm going to turn it, twist it around and put it back into the back side of it so that it stays out of my way. Okay. I'm going to take, and once I have cut all of those, once I have cut those zip ties, okay, I'm going to pull the boot seal out of that off the outer tub. Okay. You are now ready to put the new seal in. Okay. It's a whole lot easier to pull it off than it is to put it on. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my new boot seal. Okay. There are two arrows on it. One goes to the top, one goes to the bottom. How do I know which one is which? Well, you guys know that there are three things that are on the top that aren't on the bottom. That's your two hoses and your light. Okay. So I put all of that at the top. Okay. Once I put those two things at the top, I'm ready to put the boots, finish putting the boot seal back in. Okay. I'm going to push, excuse me. I'm going to position the lip of the seal over the outer tub. Okay. I'm going to work my way around the seal, pressing it in, and then the retainer spring. I want to make sure that I put that retainer spring back on very carefully. Use gloves. Okay. There are two methods that I know of that you can actually replace the seal. Okay. To put the spring back on. There is the clamp method, which is shown right here. Okay. There's another one that I had a brand new technician that showed me this, and I was like, holy smokes, that is cool. He was as fast, he was actually faster than me doing it, than me doing the clamp method. Okay. So what am I going to do if I'm going to try the other one? I have to remove the 4 screws out of the top part of the top part of the concrete block, set them aside. I take out of those 4 screws, I take 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top. I take my seal and I stretch it around that. Once I do that, I use it to unhook one corner, put it down, and then move the other corner and slide it in. Move the other corner and slide it in until I get the seal all the way around. You can do it the way that is shown here which is my preferred method. But once again, I'm old, so I'm always out looking for new ways to do this. This may become my new way to do it. I'm hoping that I don't have to go back out and replace a lot of these seals anymore. I'm more of an administrative person than a technician anymore. Okay. So here it is. I'm using these outer bolts that I can literally unscrew a little bit, put that spring around those 4 corners, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. You can just take and reverse that and do the 2 on the top. And I can now change that spring and put it out. Okay. So once I do this, now I will tell you this, you do however you want to do. whatever is good for you, whatever you find works the best for you. Okay. I'm going to tell you that me doing what is in this top left picture, I usually take a little bit of soap, liquid detergent, and put it in so that I can get it so that it'll slide in. Okay. Especially on the second one, you're going to need. To me, it's more difficult to do the second one than the first one. The first one I can do it at an angle and get it to pop in. The second one is very. It doesn't want to work properly because the hose is not rigid. Okay. Once I get those two pieces in, you do it however you want to do it. Like I said, I always then do the zip ties. Okay. I'm going to take my zip ties. I have a zip tie gun that I literally put the zip tie around, feed it into my zip tie gun, squeeze the gun until it's tight, and then it will cut I can get it to cut the end. Otherwise, what you have to do is you have to pull it as tight as you can get it, and you can take a pair of dikes and clip those, and you clip this end right here is shown in the picture on the far right side. Okay. Now, if you look at the next one down, this is the picture that I was telling you about the light assembly. Okay. But if you notice, those two clamps, the zip ties are tight. They're ready to go. Notice about where they are located. You don't want them too high, and you definitely don't want them too low, because if you got them too low, you're going to have a leak. Okay. But you want to get and reposition that light assembly. There's that picture of the light assembly. You're going to move it around. You're going to insert it back into the end of the unit, and you'll be moving it along. Okay. Once I've done all of that, everything's ready to be put back together. Okay. I mean, really put back together. So what I'm going to do is that counterbalance has like a little hook on it. I mean, a little lip. So I can actually push that counterbalance up there and take one of my screws, put that counterbalance lip over it, screw it in. Okay. Then I move, and I can I always go from one corner to the other corner and then put the other two in. It's easier for me. Once again, whatever works for you is the easiest way to do that. Okay. So I'm going to take and I'm going to put my screws back in place, the bolts back in. I'm going to tighten those down. I have known guys that used a torque wrench. I don't see the need. I run them up snug and tight, and that's pretty good. I have seen guys that had enough strength to break those, but I don't worry about that anymore. Okay. I'm going to reinsert the front panel by reconnecting the control board and then the door latch harness. Okay. So if you look at the way that we did that, okay, pulling it out, as I get the front panel, I'm going to put the front panel down. I'm going to plug it in first to the pollen here is terrible. I'm going to plug it into the control panel first. Okay. Then I'm going to slide it back into place so that I can plug in the door switch, Molenex plug. And then I'm going to do that. Okay. I'm going to then align the pins, okay, onto the mounting plate. And I'm just going to lift up a little bit and push back. Okay. Once I get the panel back in, locked in place. Okay. The one thing that I will tell you is whenever you're going to put it back in and you put that screw back in, you may have to move around. I've had to knock it with the bottom part of my hand to move it and put it back into place so that it fits tightly. and properly. Okay. Once I do all of that, I'm going to take and rethread the 3 screws on the top. Okay. I'm just re-putting back in. Once again, you got to know which screws go where. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do after I do that and I put that 3 screws on the top end, I'm going to replace the screws in the dispenser drawer that we removed. Okay. Once I remove that dispenser drawer and I put the screws back in it, I'm going to put this dispenser drawer back in. Okay. Then I'm going to go to the bottom of the unit. I'm going to take those 4 screws and I'm going to put those 4 screws in the bottom of the unit. Okay. I'm going to remove the support that you have that's holding that washing machine up. Okay. Then once I do all of that, I'm going to set it down. Once I do that, I'm going to open the door. I'm going to take that boot and I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to run around and reseal it on the outside. Okay. I'm going to then take that retainer spring. Okay. I'm going to take and use my pair of needle nose to pinch it tight. And I'm going to feed it around on the outside of it. Okay. And then I get it around. I can push it back into place, release that, and then check my boot seal and make sure that my boot seal is sealed properly. Okay. So guys, listen, that is the end of our presentation. I would love for you guys to let me know any comments that you have. If you have anything that you would like to see in the future, please let me know what you would like to do. Send me either an email. You can call me. You can put it in the text down at the bottom. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, guys, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Let me know, or let Reggie know, if you're coming to the event a week from Friday. Have a great day. Be safe out there. Be careful. And thanks, Rich. I appreciate it. You guys be careful out there. I trust me. I told you I was a technician for 20 years. So that's one of the things that being a technician, you got to have a lot of patience. So be patient. We care about you, and we want you to be safe. We hope to see you in about another week, on a week from Friday. And if you do, please come up and tell me that you did it, and let me know any comments or anything that you have in it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.